Wow, hello, hello. If you are joining us live, how exciting, how delightful. If you're watching us in the future, gosh, I hope things turned out okay. We are going to have the chillest possible time, and we're going to have the chillest possible time with our guest, Sara. I'm going to go ahead and bring her out. Hello, how have you been doing?
Hello, I'm just realizing my phone was not on silent, so I've just done that. I'm doing really well.
Technology was a mistake, computers, terrible, phones, just little computers, but they can't hurt us. If it's okay, I'm going to grab your slides. I'm going to hide backstage. And for
hmm
folks watching this live, if you have any questions at all, we're going to save them to the end. Please, 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 my loves, throw them into the chat and I'll save them and I will barge back onto the stage at the end. Here we go. And bye.
There's my ellipsis. Cool. Hello. It's slightly chaotic behind me. I could have tidied, but I decided semi on purpose to be more relatable. So that's that. Okay, this talk is called Whimsic11y. I know lots of people don't like to pronounce the ones as L's, but I can't resist it, I'm afraid. So this is then short for whimsic accessibility. I wanted to find a cute word to add to A11y, or A11y, the numeronym for accessibility, because them's a lot of letters, and because you need a cute name for every project, and because A11y, yeah, it sounds like Ali, it reads like Ali, it's too tempting to skip. So, hello, I'm Sara, also known as Sara Joy. I am both an old hand because I was building websites for myself as a teenager from 1999. As soon as I got a computer at home, I started messing around with the information used to get directly from the ISPs back then. I'm also a not so newbie. I feel like a newbie still, but I switched and started a job as a web developer in 2022, having retrained myself sort of through 2021. It was a complete mind bender. I had come from PHP just being called, what was it called? Private homepage, something like that. And it just, being used for templating, and suddenly it's a whole backend thing. And JavaScript has, of course, gone bonkers, and we have NPM and all the other stuff. It's a lot. What is NPM anyway? Anyway, lately, I've been going back to basics and messing around with ideas to help more lay people to build their own simple websites, meaning non-developers, because everyone can build websites. It shouldn't just be a developer thing. So here was one I was messing about with. This style was based on James Hoffman's website, I think, the coffee guy. And the idea was that you could just copy and paste this and just throw it somewhere. And that I'd written into it, as you can see, like in ASCII characters, here's where you can edit it, here's where you can mess with stuff. I don't know if anyone liked it, but I thought it was fun. And then here's another one, a kind of bloggy type thing. So I think in the example text, there's some, here's the bit to copy and paste to make more blog posts, that sort of thing. So those were just simple ideas. But, lay people or not, they have other interests, and that's okay. And they weren't actually that keen on making websites. If they really want to put something on the internet, they go to Wix or something else, So I don't get it because I find this fun, but that's fine. I guess it's because I miss the old web, right? Do you? If you had a homepage between 1995 and 2005, it may have looked a particular way and had particular things on it, like web rings and blog rolls and guest books, which are so passé, clearly, because this isn't a website that's up right now and is full of web rings. Well, it is. This is brisray.com. He's got a lovely retro kind of website, and he's a member of lots of web rings, and he holds a list of web rings that are currently web rings, which are currently active. And there's tons of them. 337 web rings containing a total of 12,717 websites. So we still have web rings, and blog rolls are apparently passé. Now, Rob Knight, he's actually redesigned his website since then. I think he might still have a blog roll, but more and more websites have links to their friends. who also have blogs. The blog rolls are still there. We can still use them to bounce from blog to blog. And then guest books. And even they're coming back. All right, this is Manuel Morial. You may have, he does a series called People and Blogs where he interviews people. And he thought my guest book was cute. And then he made one for himself, which is awesome. So guest books are back. And lots of people are building their own sites. So us devs and nerds, we have our own little website circles. And some of them are sleek and professional. And this is one by Daniel Schultz. He's in my city. And I really like what he's done with the pop of color. And also he's got this slider. It's such a beautiful slider. And I was like, ooh. And then I was like, okay, cool. It's fun contrast to either end. But me being me, I was like, what happens in the middle? What happens in the middle? And then some people make playful and joyous websites. So this is Sophie Kunin. This website is called Local Ghost. And she not only has just a very cool default style, but she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 style sheets going on. There may be more by now, but they're excellent. And it's very, if you've ever heard of CSS Zen Garden, that's going back a decade or two now. But the idea that you can have one website which loads all these different CSS style sheets and has completely different vibes, I think it's wonderful. And then this last one, this made my jaw drop when it first came out. And it's going to look a bit janky only because my poor laptop was struggling when I was recording this video. But this is such a buttery, beautiful, interesting, somehow minimal and maximal website at the same time. This is Henry Desroche, or Henry from the web. He gives himself various names, and it's just gorgeous, right? So these are sort of dev circle websites, I guess. Very aspirational. It's not nearly all of them because not only developers are building. So, for example, there's the Melonland Surf Club, and that is a web ring. It's part of the Melonland project, and I think this is brilliant. And there's so many different pages of different styles and vibes. These are extremely, the first one was autistic as FXXK. Then we had a flying, I'm not sure what that was. It was a black and white unicorn type thing. And we've got the standard black background, neon text. And then we've got like a coffee tea based theme. And they just go on and on and on. And this is the web I remember being part of and building when I first hit the internet in 1999, which is a dangerous number of years ago. And it's still there. And you know what? It never went away. And I guess you guys are building something like this. 25, biochemist, pagan, and anarcho-communist. It's just brilliant. I could go on these forever. I'm going to pause these for now. Totally recommend going to the Surf Club Navigator of Melonland just to get like inspiration. NeoCities is similar. It's not quite as fun to browse, but you can still look down a whole load of thumbnails of different projects. So we've got a lot of screenshots like we've just seen on the Surf Club. I suspect lots of people are members of both. Or they've built on NeoCities and then they've joined the Surf Club. I just love web rings and I love this stuff. And I know that there's social stuff inside NeoCities, which I've not quite figured out yet. But I know there's feeds and interactions and stuff like that. And the Melonland project itself is just beautiful. It's an Irish artist who's set all this up and is all about the, I think he calls it the web revival. So the web revival or the indie web or the personal web. Maybe there's a social web. I can't remember. Lots of people give it all sorts of different names, but I think you all know what I mean. And then also there's actual places you can go. Oh, thanks. My Fitbit tells me I've exercised. So there's the indie web, there's the yesterweb, there's the tildeverse, there's the 32-bit cafe, there's you guys at the Bad Website Club. There's so many, and I've come to the idea that this old web never went away. It's just the big silo things that made it so easy to just post are just big, and they sort of sit. They're easier to get to, easier to post on, and so we've forgotten how to surf. So I want to just encourage everyone to get surfing again, right? And these people who make all these websites, as you saw, they're diverse. We are diverse and inclusive. Many are themselves neurodivergent and or disabled and want their websites to be accessible if possible. And I'm sure you guys do too. But they also may have limited spoons. And if you don't know about spoon theory, look it up. It's a nice tangible way to talk about how much mental and physical energy you have in the day. And so I'm into accessibility, but the last place I want to send them to is the WCAG or the WCAG, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, because then you end up looking at this. And this all your spoons will be gone straight away trying to read your way through this. So this is not where we send people who are hobbyists, because these sites are joyous and experimental and excited, multimedia, colourful, inventive, avant-garde, and not always accessible. But that's a question. Do they have to be? These are people's homes. I consider these somebody's home on the internet, and they're your pet projects on the web. And you're experimenting, you're still building them. And most of our own real homes don't have stair lifts, ramps, adapted bathrooms, or labels in Braille. Yet. And should all types of art be accessible to everyone? This may be loud. What's very nice is that there's a content warning on this. I found this beautiful web art. It's about to play. You can see the cursor going down. There's text everywhere. It is glitchy. Excuse the language. Be experienced rather than so that's to be sort of experienced rather than read. And if a screen reader went onto this page, it's tricky. It does pick out the different parts. And then, of course, if you can hear, you can listen to the music. If you can't hear, then you've got lots of interesting visuals. I find it interesting, and I struggled to say, well, this has to be perfectly accessible for everyone. So maybe not, but it doesn't mean we can't try. So 2.5 years ago, right here, I'm sorry, I gave this presentation at State of the Browser. So this is now 3.5 years ago at State of the Browser. Sophie Koonin, who was Local Ghost, taught us how to make the Whimsy of the 90s and noughties websites accessible. Because it can be done, even embedded audio and cursor trails. So I don't have the video here, but in the old days, we would find a mid. My favorite mid was Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. And you would hide it and you'd loop it and you'd auto start it. And of course you would, because you'd want it to play. Now, strictly opt-in. We should show the controls, just like that last piece did, actually. I had to turn on the controls for the music. And you can control the volume, turn it off and on. There probably was a dirge of websites that would play sounds, random sounds, to the point where, you know, browsers now, they show a little audio icon on the tab so you can just find it and turn it off. But we can, on our site, just make sure we already give that affordance. And here's the other thing. So there are cursor effects. I don't know how to code this, but that Tolman.com cursor effects, that's still there. You can go and find it. And what's important is that we can use prefers reduced motion. So we can check the receiving computer of the website. Would they prefer reduced motion? And if so, we don't initialize the thing. We only initialize this thing and let the cursor trails happen if they're okay with motion. So this does make the content more accessible, but does it bring the vibes through? Vibes. So what I mean by that is when we first enter a website, we get a visual measure of it, right? So maybe it's dark and it's brooding, or it's light and it's airy, or maybe it's full of kawaii bubblegum anime imagery, but the content is much darker, or vice versa, a sort of wholesome gothic. They're the most fun. But how do we transmit these vibes beyond the visual? And then what else makes a personal art project unique to create these vibes? And does this square with the standards-based accessibility advice? Is accessibility advice geared to public services and e-commerce? I think there may be some truth in guidelines making websites dull, that designers sometimes complain about this, but I want my banking and I want my government sites to be dull. I want them to be safe and predictable and boring. Of course I do. You go to gov.uk, for example, they've actually got a really solid design system and ideas about how things should look. Some of the forms you go through when you have to do something, visas and immigration, you can see I've got visited. It's ugly, frankly, but it's very predictable, very safe, and behaves. So I started this website, whimsica11y.net, to try and bridge this vibes gap, because obviously e-commerce sites and government sites, we don't need vibes. But personal sites are different. They're our home, they're our joy, they're our plaything. So I made this, and I had a lot of fun with the hue slider, doing my best to make it viewable for lots of different kinds of people, depending what they prefer. And it's all semantically coded with elements that can easily be read by a screen reader. Oh yeah, and there's a bunch of links for good stuff. But I found myself repeating existing advice, and then I started worrying about being wrong, actually, or giving advice that could, just being wrong and then giving that advice further and making someone else wrong. What if I accidentally excluded yet more people with my well-meaning but misguided advice? So the project stalled for now. And this has been a good year that it's been stalled. It's there, the website's there, it's very under construction. It's just trying to work out how to finish it in a way that maybe it needs to be finished in a questioning sort of way rather than an authoritative sort of way. Because I want to tell people to go big on alt text when a picture means a lot to them. Tell us how it makes you feel. Some of the advice says keep alt text of pictures down to 140 characters, something like that. And yeah, but if it's a picture you've drawn or a member of your family, or there's a lot of detail, or it makes you feel lots of things, let's have it. And I really enjoy the websites that are more rabbit warren-y, that they're not just a simple nav with X amount of pages and a blog, that maybe they invite you to explore. And I think that's fun. If the website is strange and full of twists and turns, a disabled person should get to enjoy that journey as well. But this advice doesn't really play well with the WCAG. I thought, well, I'll ask people on Mastodon. Some of you may be on Mastodon or Blue Sky, because we've left Twitter, who used assistive technologies. What has delighted them online? I was looking for stuff that made them go, oh gosh, that was fun, because I wanted some concrete examples. And I asked. But I got answers almost exclusively about functionality. They were just delighted when things worked or worked well. And that means the bar is really low. I feel like I'm delighted, intrigued, surprised, amused by some visual website design really often. And they're just happy that it just worked. So while accessibility is absolutely not only about those who are blind, the web is kind of dull when you can't see it. So this is the company I work for, this is Pirate Ship. We amused at least one user of assistive tech. We hired Florian Baiges, who's a blind developer, streamer, accessibility advocate, and consultant, and gamer. I guess that goes in streamer. And he did an audit for us, and he came across our soundboard. This one might be quite a lot quiet. But down here, some of you may use Pirate Ship, in which case. And we have this little soundboard with silly pirate phrases. Where's me beauty? And it's there for no reason. It doesn't help the functionality. Why should it? It's just there. But I think a lot more websites could have a little bit of this, a bit of fun, a bit of audio. We seem to have dropped the audio since the days of too many MIDI files. Right? The rest of our app does still have some accessibility issues. Actually, since writing this, a load more have been sorted, which is great. I'm so pleased to say they are now actively being worked on. He has been blind since birth, our auditor Florian, and he learned Braille. But a vast majority of people who have visual impairments do not learn Braille. These people are likely to have lost their sight later in life, even if it's quite early later, like 20-something. And we might well lose our sight later in our own lives. I'm already with varifocals. If I don't have my glasses on, I can't focus too close. Comes with age. So I might remind myself not to other groups that I may yet join. And I fall into this othering too often for my own comfort, so I have to remember that I may well become visually impaired. So unless blind or severely visually impaired people can use Braille displays, which is definitely not a given, all text online has a screen reader's voice. As the web is full of text, people do want to get through it fast. And screen reader users often pick voices with specific properties. So this is Florian saying the flatness allows for cranking it up to stupid rapid speeds, which gets harder when there's more variance in the signal. So he's meaning that we can't really have this conversational up and down, because as soon as you speed that up, it just sounds daft and bouncy. So many of us read books and articles in an imagined voice, or a set of imagined voices that we fit to the author or the story's character. And imagine not having that flexibility, and it's all Microsoft George. Other voices are available. So this is a good reason why Leonie Watson, also known as Tink, she's really worth looking up, has long been advocating for CSS speech. She lost her sight as an adult, quite a young adult, but yeah, she didn't learn Braille. So she relies very heavily on screen readers for all text. Of course, CSS speech would have to be opt-in, because someone would clearly enjoy making their fantastic prose a little too emphatic and dynamic just because they can. That hurt me to read, but it was fun to write. My big question is, what has happened to our multimedia web? Why is there so little audio and video outside of YouTube? Florian said, if we see sound on the web now, it's ads or other auto-playing videos. It's truly a loss. See sound is interesting. Leonie says, I agree beyond it just works. There is little to delight screen reader users about the web these days, and it just works being a cause for delight is a sad indictment of the state of accessibility in general. So why do we think that is? And I enjoy a bit of speculation. So much browsing happens on mobile phones in public spaces. So we're often in silence on the bus or the train. I mean, some have headphones in, but not all of us. Or we're in much louder surroundings where we can't hear it anyway. Maybe that's why there's captions everywhere. I mean, I'm a classic elder millennial and I love captions. I put them on when I'm watching any show. And that could be something to do with the quality of audio nowadays in TV shows, but I'm a caption person. So why else? CSS is extremely visual in nature. we can bend the HTML to our whims and make it look all kinds of things. I mean, this presentation is built in just web. It is HTML and CSS. Some JavaScript too. Sometimes we confuse the structure so much that the web pages turn into entirely different documents. So in some ways that's good. We've got what Local Ghost did, Sophie Coonan with her site and all the different style sheets. But in one situation, someone was coming to me confused because they couldn't find the terms of contents, or the terms of contents were in a weird place on the page. It was right under terms of contents, table of contents, excuse me. It was underneath the contents. So the table introducing what you're going to see was underneath all the stuff. Visually, it was shown to the right, and that makes sense, but it does not make sense when you're looking at your HTML DOM, document object model. So we end up with this disconnect between a visual order, as we see it on the screen with our CSS, and the DOM order, which is also the keyboard navigation order or the screen reader order of elements. I absolutely love playing with CSS, and I bet those of you do too, or are learning to, or will. The whimsy has become so visual. So what can we do about that? I have a few ideas. So related to audio, Keenan has a very good blog, and it has audio counterparts. So for some of them, he records them. I'm going to try and stay quiet. I've just understood that the audio is not coming through at all. Never mind. You should go to Keenan's very good blog. It's linked from these slides, and we'll share the slides link as well so you can find it. But he's got a very animated and engaging voice. Not everyone has that, but it's worth. If you do have an engaging voice, record some of your blog posts. Why not? The pirate ship sounds were an idea. And Chris Ferdinandi, who's a great JavaScript teaching guy, has a drum machine in his site footer. I don't know if you're going to hear the drums in this case, but as you can probably guess, you can also set this off with keys. See, type. I have no rhythm. And we can also learn about and contribute to CSS speech. And then I was thinking, are there any other vibe transition methods that we can use on our websites? So we can have alt text as part of the art, or even as poetry. So here's a website which does exactly that, suggests you can use your alt text as poetry. You can write some quite interesting things that give much more of a vibe about the picture. Here we go. Attention to language. Simply by writing alt text with thought and care, we shift the process. What words are we using? What are their connotations? What's the tone of our writing? What's the voice? How do these align with or contrast the tone and perspective of the image? I mean, I think the whole idea is brilliant. We can do alt text selfies to complement our profile pictures. There's absolutely loads of these. I'm not going to go deep into them. This is a link you should really follow. There's some really full of feeling. Let's have a look at the first one. There we go. Let's read this first one. A white cherub-faced woman with rainbow hair gazes lovingly at her little black doggy. He is in her arms, licking the bottom of her chin. They stand in front of a large, deep green bush covered in bright pink flowers. The sun is warm on their faces, and there is a slight breeze. It smells like a freshly mowed lawn. In this moment of bliss, they can hear the buzzing of bees, lawn mowers, and city traffic. This is my alt text selfie from my previous profile photo. Sara positions her phone camera above and in front of her, trying for some kind of enigmatic expression with her eyes, which end up bisected by her red frame varifocal glasses, which she thinks make her look cool or sassy or something. She's wearing the pussy hat she crocheted in 2017 for the anti-Trump demo she attended that year. Just out of shot lies the chaos of a young nuclear family, toys all over the floor, and the kitchen counter covered in stuff she's too tired to tidy away. So that's a lot more information than we're even getting as sighted people looking at profile photos. And I think that's a joy. So we can create atmosphere or add fun in visually hidden text as well. Why not? We leave Easter eggs in code all the time. So here's just a little example. My website, if you open the dev tools, you see a little bit of text. It's got nothing to do with the site. It doesn't show on the site, but it's there. There's also an ASCII art picture of myself. But I've also described the ASCII art picture just for the people who otherwise wouldn't be able to see it, because ASCII art, unfortunately, just reads back as punctuation. So you can allow more of your personality into your writing as well. We are in the age of AI and Grammarly, but it's your dialect, it's your website, it's your home. You have your own idioms, you have your own humor. This is your place. There's a danger of letting AI and Grammarly and all these other things even out our tone to some kind of internet standard. And we're more than that. So these are only a few ideas, and I'm sure you'll have loads more, because the web is for everyone. And this is a shot from the 2012 Olympics. And I think Tim Berners-Lee is underneath that house that's just been lifted off him, because he invented the web. And it's such a big playground, and we should all get to enjoy it. The joy, the whimsy, and the vibes too. Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
On that picture there.
Yeah. I think that might have been Mozfest the last time I was in London. Just because I think I was there. Oh, but I'm wrong a lot. But you, Tim Berners-Lee being right under that house is absolutely correct.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry some audio didn't make it through.
We will joyously push the links to everybody constantly. So I'm so sorry to ask you a leading question first. And for folks who have other questions, throw them in here. We're so excited to see them. We have a couple of things that are more comments than questions, but they're good comments. Mm-hmm. So the leading one first. You've mentioned that we could view writing good but expressive alt text as art. You've mentioned that we could view adding audio experience as art. Should our learners just go ahead and spend some time building weird, silly little things if they want to improve building things for the web?
Yes, that's very leading. But yes.
Sorry, it's very leading. I'm like, so shouldn't people?
I mean, one of my most favorite things to do is literally just have one file. Forget all the separations, your CSS file and JS here and whatever. I have the one file, and I leave my styles in the header, and I just do. That's how I start every site. It starts as one file. I only start abstracting or trying to be clever when, oh no, I've got to repeat that. Oh no, and if I change that, I'm going to copy it a few times, and then it gets annoying, right? But at that point, I'm just playing. And I don't know if your, not users, are they? Your learners are using CodePen and things like that, just to try all kinds of little, what does that do? What does that do? Ooh, what does that do? Ooh, what does that do? That's my process. I just keep fiddling with things and see what it does.
We've got a process for when you don't know what something does, or if you're stuck, that the first thing you do is read all the documentation or instructions if they're provided. You can look it up on the web if you have an avenue for search that hasn't started to be rubbish. And then the third step we've asked folks to do is like, just get weird, just experiment.
Yes.
So
there's all kinds of weird little things that I've just built, and they're just sitting on the internet now. I've lost count, and I've lost where they are. But yeah, there's this. I think I got really into building websites as a teenager because it was so immediate that you could just change a little thing and it would have a big impression on the screen I was looking at. And just that instant feedback loop was awesome.
And there's like, oh, you only get this many characters for a post, or oh, we've got these guidelines. With the web, you kind of get to be as silly as you want. So,
Yes.
we've got a question from Mel saying, okay. So, you are building silly little delightful things for you, and you're doing a really good job on thinking about building accessibility in, and you even get to work someplace that's got a silly little website and focused on accessibility. But let's say hypothetically, I'm building a website where they're not going to be able to continue to pay a dev all the time,
Mm.
and they're maybe less technical. What ways would you maybe approach that kind of thing? So, hey, here's somebody who's not a dev themselves. They, like you said, the folks where you're like, do you want to learn this? And they're like, no. What kind of ways could you work with them to get them a website that's accessible that they can go ahead and continue to do stuff with? It's a very open-ended question.
It's so open, and there's so many ways as well. Like, if the website is being built through, I don't know, GitHub, and then it goes up to Netlify or something, then you've got to have someone that's willing to go to GitHub and maybe edit stuff on there, or to push to GitHub. And that's so I guess at that point I'd be like, well, let's make it so that all you're doing is maybe using NeoCities where the code is right there. I don't know how easy it is to go backwards and undo things. Hopefully they have a good undo. But also, like those little websites, I was kind of toying with the idea of adding stuff in comments in the code saying, here's where you edit, here's where you change that, play with these things for that. It's tricky, isn't it? There are a few. Yeah, and then your content management systems are all about the content rather than the design. It's a really interesting question. The hard thing is that person really has to want to play and be willing to play.
So it sounds like, hey, we're really sorry if what we're talking about is creating a silly, creative, flexible thing. Maybe working with them and teaching them some of these skills might be a really solid way to do this. Or they should stay on your good side and continue to buy you coffee.
Yeah. Like, I'd certainly give them all their files, so I could say, look, you can have these on your computer and you can edit them and see how they turn out, and mess around with them and say, I've always got the copies here, just in case you break it.
Like, Alistair said, like, oh, hey, I think we're coming back to when you were like, look at this GDS site. And for folks not in the UK, GDS is Government Digital Service. They do the important, boring stuff on the web. And Alistair saying, hey, I did some work for GDS and GovUK, and accessibility was such a big part of this. They had a visually impaired reviewer as part of the process, and they needed to sign off on it to be like, no, or yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's good. I have a lot of opinions about how the UK runs itself, even though I live in Germany. I've just had some issues lately. But the actual web interface you go through to deal with these services, it's so good. It's so clear.
And you've talked about vibes, and I loved it. So a lot of times when folks talk about learning technical skills, it's very like raw, hardcore, go. Or it's very like, we're going to do this for business reasons. It's really nice too. You're like, hey, let's talk about doing stuff that feels right, that feels interesting, that mirrors the tone in your heart. And Alistair's out here making a real good point to be like, look, sometimes the vibes are accessible and easy to understand. Sometimes the vibes are the poor principles that we learned about last week. That's it. Yeah. And Matthew's opening this up. So our learners haven't said this specifically, but Matthew's asking, do you know about sort of the arguments around PDFs? Like, use PDFs, don't use PDFs. And for our learners, I bet we're about to hear about what the problems with PDFs are kind of generally. So like, have you heard of some of this? Where a lot of accessibility folks are like, more PDFs, less PDFs.
I've heard of some of it. It's not really the place it's not the part of the industry I'm in, but I know that to get a properly tagged, readable, decent PDF is hard, and so many places seem to like just scan a document and just send you like a PDF that's an image effectively. And yeah.
I will. I'm so sorry that all of my opinions about this involve swearing. So I will take them offline.
Can I just say one more thing though? There was
Yeah, please.
the last time I updated my CV, which was some time ago, I decided, you know what, this CV that I've got, it's in Word, and I'd export it to PDF. It was starting to jump around. I mean, tables in Word are horrible after a while. If you've edited them too many times and everything starts getting jumpy and misaligned and you can't quite get it all right and page breaks are awful and whatever. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's an HTML CV now. It's all in HTML. I can print it to PDF if that's what they want. But yeah, web documents are just better.
Really, everything that we can do with computers seems to be a little bit cursed in different ways, carving out space in your heart. And I imagine that the learners thought I put you up to this, where you're like, obviously, I approach all these projects with good, solid semantic HTML. I was like, yes, yes,
Mm. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to remember, but like once you've done your third div, you can be like, wait, that could be something else.
yes. Y'all, I absolutely promise that I did not slip any notes before this
No,
started.
not
We're
at all.
focusing on the fundamentals of accessibility this week, and folks have heard from me. I don't want to guess how many times. Y'all, does that need to be a div? Is that a section? Is that an article? Is that a nav? So whenever possible, we're going to be as specific as possible. Sara,
Sections and
thank you.
articles I find difficult. I never know which one to use.
Like, do you? Yeah, it often feels a bit philosophical. Oh, vibes based.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stunning. I will joyously let you go. We have shared the link to your website and your slides and the links as you've been mentioning them in the chat. Folks, I'll also share this in Discord to make sure everybody can get them, and this will be available after the fact. Sara, thank you so much. If folks did want
So
to bother you on, well, not bother you, they better not bother you. If folks did want to find you on social media, where can they find you on Mastodon or Blue Sky or a
yes.
secret third thing?
No, just those. Yeah, I mean, if you're already sharing my website link, that's fine. Go all the way to the bottom or hit the tab that says find, and then all the stuff is there. I'm absolutely open to questions. Sometimes I'm very slow in replying, but that doesn't mean I don't like the questions.
We are going to let you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody, for joining us. And for those of us, again, joining us asynchronously, what a joy for y'all to make time for us in the future. Bye, team.
Thank you. Bye-bye.